have qualified for a PLE certificate if that candidate has scored or passed in Division 1, 2, 3, or 4. And such candidates will qualify to register for any post-primary examination conducted by UNEB. And this year, 91.4% of those qualify compared to 91.0 the previous year. Honorable Minister, I want to explain the issue of Division U. At the primary living, we have not been using the word fail. Rather, we have said those candidates who have been unable to reach the minimum mark that qualifies for at least a grade 4 is simply ungraded. That is another way of saying they would have failed. But we don't want to use the word fail at this stage in the education system. So those are awarded Division U, and we encourage Honorable Minister that such candidates should take a chance to repeat the class. We have, as the chairperson has said, maintained an examination center at our prison, upper prison, and recently we also have had prisoners in other prisons across the country also being prepared and presented for exams. Those that sat at the upper prison, there were 73 of them, and 65 of them took the exam and the others were absent. 2 of them were able to obtain Division 1 pass, 26 of them obtained a Division 2, 15 passed in Division 3, another 15 obtained Division 4, and only 7 of those were ungraded. Honorable Minister, performance by gender is also indicated. We do see from the table that the male candidates, although we said there were fewer, in terms of performance, they have done slightly better than the female candidates. At Division 1, we have 13.1% of the male candidates that passed, compared to 10.5%, a difference of nearly 3 percentage points. At Division 2, we have 42.7% of the males that passed, compared to 40.6%. The figures for the females tend to rise on the wrong side of the table in the Division 3s and the Division 4s and the ungraded. So the boys generally have performed slightly better than the girls. Honorable Minister, UNEB put in a lot of efforts, as the chairperson has already said, to ensure security of exams. Although the exams were conducted smoothly, cases of examination malpractice, as mentioned by the chairperson, were cited. For example, the 8 schools that the chairperson mentioned, our security operatives found teachers in these schools, and I will read out the names of these schools, actually writing answers on the chalkboard for candidates to copy. There is Bundi Mulinga Primary School, Nyauka Town Council, Bwamba County. Bubandi Primary School, Sungu Town Council in Bwamba County. Izahura Sitting Center, which had other schools, Bupomboli Primary School, Chihoko Primary School, Green Cycle Primary Schools in Bugandera County. Then Bundi Kahungu Primary School in Nyahuka Town Council in Bwamba County, and Clever's Origin Primary School in Bundibuju Town Council, Bwamba County. Honorable Minister, all these schools were in Bundibuju district. At the above schools, the report from security indicates that each candidate contributed 50,000 shillings to facilitate the malpractice. Honorable Minister, these and other cases are awaiting court action, and we wish to sound a very strong warning that from now on, the nation's security apparatus will hunt down perpetrators of malpractice and bring them to book. The board will seek approval in accordance with the section cited by our chair to withhold the results of slightly over 3,500 candidates to enable security and UNEB to complete our investigations. All the candidates whose results will be withheld will be accorded a fair hearing by the board's Examination Security Committee, and any that is cleared will have their results promptly released. Honorable Minister, it's our practice as a board to give feedback. That's one of our functions. So we will issue a report on the work of candidates, which has been compiled from the reports and observations made by the examiners. This report will point out to the teachers in the field areas of common misconceptions and errors that are made by the candidates, and also advise on how these should be handled. We would like to request that stakeholders, particularly teachers, utilize this report. Honorable Minister, we want to thank you for the assistance that you have rendered to us. You've been a pillar of support. I thank the Permanent Secretary here for his very, very keen interest in the work of the board and being very easily available for consultation anytime we have needed him. I'd like to thank the chairperson and board members for their guidance. I also like to thank my dedicated staff at the UNEB Secretariat for their tireless efforts to ensure that the results of the examinations are released on time. We thank the district leaders, the chief administrative officers, district and municipal education officers and inspectors for their cooperation and their support in management of the 2018 PLE. I want to thank the Inspector General of Police, who gave me and UNEB a dedicated team of senior police officers with whom I worked to monitor and take action on issues that needed to be addressed. Honorable Minister, I invited some of these officers to be present at this ceremony so that they can salute you. Thank you. I also want to thank the Commandant of the Military Police and other security agencies for releasing their staff to work with us in the management of the 2018 PLE. Further appreciation is sent to all the field persons with whom we worked, and the media for the role that they played and they continue to play. I also wish to join my chair in congratulating the candidates who passed and the teachers who prepared them, and their parents and guardians who gave them the support. Finally, I want to thank the institutions, the 11 schools that allowed UNEB to use their facilities and premises to mark the PLE examination. Honorable Minister, results will be uploaded on the portals for the schools. However, district and municipal inspectors of schools can collect hard copies of these results if they so wish from our offices in Ntinda today, starting at 3 o'clock. Those who may not want to wait for the results to reach their schools will also be enabled to access these results by SMS or via the internet. Honorable Minister, as soon as you release these results to the nation, they will be instantly available for access by anybody in the country and even outside. If you want to use the SMS service, you will of course go to the menu, the message menu, and please type PLE without leaving any space. Then you leave a space and you put in the full index number. In other words, you start with the school number, follow it by the candidate's number, and then you will send to 6600. And in a few seconds, you should be able to get those results. If you have access to the internet, you have a smartphone, we've also provided for you a link, which is in the release statement, is long. And when you type in that and the details of the candidates, you will not only see the results, but you will also see the photograph of the candidate whose results you are trying to check. So you can be sure that this is the actual person whose results you are interested in. Once again, Honorable Minister, allow me to thank you and wish you a very happy and prosperous New Year. And to all the audience that have listened, I also wish you a happy and prosperous New Year. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dan Odongo, the Executive Secretary for Uganda National Examinations Board. At this juncture, I would like to invite the chairperson of UNEB to now hand over the results to the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, I'm handing over the hard copy and the soft copy of the PLE results of year 2018.
May I now invite the Honorable Minister of State for Primary Education to give her remarks, and thereafter invite the Honorable Minister of Education and Sports to give her speech. Thank you.
Mama, the First Lady, and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, my colleague, the Honorable Minister of State for Higher Education, the members of Parliament present, the Permanent Secretary, the Chairman UNEB, members of the UNEB Board, the senior officers from the Ministry of Education and Sports, our dear friends, the members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year, friends. I wish to welcome all of you to this important occasion in our education cycle and calendar, during which UNEB will hand over or has handed over the 2018 primary living examination results for release to the nation. We all know that PLE is the first national examination in our cycle, and its effects are felt in almost all our villages and homes. The examination, to a large extent, also influences the academic future of our children, and it is therefore a very important examination, the result of which the sector is eagerly waiting for always when it is time for it. I wish, on behalf of the subsector, Mama, it will be very unfair if we don't thank you. It will be very unfair. I believe everybody in this room will agree with me that your leadership has brought a different face to the Ministry of Education and Sports. Therefore, I really find it very, very unfair if we don't thank you and thank the Permanent Secretary as well. I also want to thank all my colleagues. I thank all the directors. I thank the commissioners and everyone in the Ministry of Education and Sports. I also want to thank the local government, because we are all aware primary is under local government. I want to thank the local government. I want to thank the police and everyone who has supported this process. I also want to thank UNEB for the good work well done in conducting and processing the results in good time to enable our parents make proper preparations for the next level of their children's education. I therefore use this opportunity also to congratulate all our children who have performed well and qualify to proceed towards their lifelong education. However, for those candidates who may not have performed well at this level, must not lose hope. Ministry of Education and Sports has put in place other opportunities which can avail them skills that can help them succeed in life and also be useful to their society. Mama, I would like to use this opportunity to request parents that in the selection of post-primary institutions, they should be advised to consider taking their children to technical schools or institutions, which the Ministry of Education and Sports has spread in various parts of the country. Technical education is not for failures, but it is good for our children and for this country. Mama, I wouldn't like to say any more than this, but allow me at this moment to invite you to come and address the gathering. Thank you very much.
Honorable Ministers of State of the Ministry of Education and Sports, the members of Parliament, if any, are present here, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education, the Chairperson UNEB, and members of the board, the Executive Secretary, UNEB, and your team, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year to all of you. And I am also very pleased to be here this morning and to be releasing the results of the 2018 Primary Living Examination, PLE, which was done on the 5th and the 6th of November 2018. I'd like to thank the chairperson of the board, the executive secretary and staff of UNEB for working so hard always to ensure that these results are always released in time. And I believe this has also been made possible by the hard work of all examiners and the other people who participated at the various stages during the processing of these results. The early release of the results enables the ministry to carry out other activities such as senior one and technical schools selections early enough for the selected students to start term one at about the same time with other continuing learners in schools. Once again, I note that more girls have been registered for the examination than boys, as you heard, and the gap has been widening over the last 4 years. This means that perhaps our parents are taking the education of the girl child seriously. That's my hope and everybody's hope this side of the room. While this is laudable because of the obvious positive impact on development caused by educating women, it is time also that we should wonder what is happening to the boy child, because both these children are our children, and the whole struggle with the girl child has been to bring her to the level where the boys are. So one wonders whether the boys are now dropping out of school, or whether it is the population demographics at play, or whether we need to dig deeper and find out the factors responsible which should be avoided. It is important that we try to identify and address those issues so that we don't leave it for any time longer, because we don't want to have the similar problem like we had with the girls, to have the boys now going down, because that will ensure that the society will never be at par, which is really what we are all fighting to get. The chairperson has reported that this year's candidature increased by 3.9%, much better than the 0.8% of the previous year. If this is a positive response to my appeal to the district last year, I am very happy to know. I will reiterate that appeal, that no unnecessary barriers should be placed before our learners to hamper their progress. Forcing those who have remained in school up to primary 7 to repeat will lead to dropouts, wastage, and frustrate government efforts of providing universal education. I know that some districts imagine that this is one way of showing improved results. I do not agree, because there are better strategies, including effective teaching that will not involve eliminating those who have struggled to remain in school. I wish to appeal to all supervisors, especially at the local government level, to ensure reduced absenteeism of head teachers now. Because if the head teachers are the ones absent, teachers automatically become absent, and the learners. So really, we can't shout enough to say that it is important that head teachers must be at school every working day to ensure that the school runs as it ought to do. So I reiterate indeed that the head teachers supervise the teaching and learning process on a daily basis, because as a ministry, we believe, and we have said many times, that the head teacher is the first inspector. It is regrettable that some learners missed the examination because they discovered too late that they had not been registered, despite their parents having paid registration fees. It is also regrettable that some of the schools where these children were learning from were unregistered or had been closed by the local authorities and were therefore unknown both to the Ministry of Education and also to UNEB. As you all know, my ministry has worked so hard to close these illegal schools. And I hope that everybody really supports us in this endeavor. We don't just close schools to make it difficult for children to get to schools at a long distance. We close schools which we think are not giving education. And we need people to support us in this endeavor and not to allow teachers to start now operating in residential houses as schools, and then at exam time, they just leave the children on their own to suffer the consequences. Some of those schools we closed have reopened, and they continue to operate with the full knowledge of the local leadership and the local governments. We have already issued a reminder to all relevant authorities to the effect that no private school will be allowed to operate during the 2019 school year without a valid license issued by the ministry. I appeal very strongly to the leaders to support this ministry. This ministry is everybody's ministry. We are just servants of everybody in the area of education. So we appeal to everybody to really give us the support they can so that we can give valuable education to our children. So the ministry is enforcing minimum standards and ensuring that such schools, once closed, must only reopen when facilities meet the minimum requirements for the teaching and learning process, and the school has acquired a legal status to operate. Short of this, these unscrupulous persons will continue to dupe the parents and cause a lot of pain to the children, who at the last moment find out that they cannot write the examination they had worked hard to prepare for. And I want to appeal here now to leaders and to members of parliament, even if there are any here, to really mobilize the parents in our communities and to inform them that it's important for parents to know what type of schools their children are really getting their education from early enough. Instead of waiting to have these reports at the last minute when the children have not sat exams, when others have finished exams. There had been calls, of course, and you've heard, I'm sure, through the media, that a supplementary examination should be administered to the pupils who were affected. Now, while I appreciate the sentiments behind such calls, the position of the ministry is that this is not possible for several reasons, as I said last year. Candidates in a particular cohort of learners must be assessed parents, and then they vanish if they know that the system will set another examination. We're also preparing, administering, marking, and processing results of such an examination is too high to be justified. In any case, the question comes up, who will pay those costs? This practice is not supported by evidence of best practice. So I encourage parents to always ensure that they check the status of the schools to which they enroll their children, or even on whether their children have actually been registered or not. Before closure of the registration process by UNEP, in order to avoid this problem, we have encouraged UNEP to institute an online mechanism of verifying the registration status of candidates and or examination centers in due time. And you've heard them report to you here. They have tried to make this process so simple for people to really know all the time how their children stand. Through the process of registration, any parent, it seems as if every parent now has a phone. But what is that phone for if it can't really help you to find out whether your child is registered for exam, if they've been at school for 7 years and they've been waiting for this year to sit the exam? What is the use of that phone? And there is a system now that makes it possible for you to use your phone in your kitchen and find out what is the status of your child. I applaud the measures the UNEP chairperson has announced. Other measures, which I will come to later, should still be sought to help the parents and protect the children. These measures should cover the other examinations as well, but the local and political leaders have a duty to sensitize the parents. From the statistics on performance in the brief I have received, I have noted the following. 1, there is a significant improvement in the overall pass levels with a reduced failure rate, which I think is now good news. This means a higher transition rate. More learners will move to the next level of education, thereby reducing wastage. 2, while performing has improved, a very large number of candidates cannot adequately handle questions with practical applications, as you had the UNEP officials say. The teaching appears to be theoretical. We have complained about this almost every year as we pass as we release these results. Emphasis is on breeding candidates on how to answer questions without understanding the underlying concepts, which just means really that there is no learning. The children are not learning. They're just being drilled to reproduce what they've been told on paper just so they can pass an exam. And many times they can't pass that exam because they don't know what is relevant where. That's why a child ends up just getting 0. So, when a question requires the candidates to use those concepts, many are at a loss. Teachers must therefore refocus the methods of teaching to ensure that learners are able to apply knowledge to their real life surroundings. These are the skills our children need in the 21st century. This is what we're talking about skills. Skills are not just about technical education alone. Even at the primary level, a child must come out with the skills in learning getting really competent at that level at what they've been learning. That's how we get some of the students really doing excellently in the exam. And then others do so poorly that you can't believe that they were in school at all. There are still very many candidates obtaining very low scores after 7 years in school, and I'm aware that UNEB conducted a study to isolate the factors responsible for this in eastern Uganda, where this phenomenon was widespread. The findings included rampant teacher and pupil absenteeism, poor teaching methods, lack of parental involvement in school affairs, lack of midday meals and involvement of the learners in other activities that affect their school attendance. I have shared these concerns with our stakeholders throughout the country. I have emphasized the problem of lack of meals because of the impact this has on a child's ability to concentrate and learn effectively. The Ministry of Education and Sports is undertaking targeted interventions in some of these districts to try and improve learning conditions and outcomes. I wish to add that important data is generated by UNEB on the effective or ineffective functioning of schools by districts or geographical regions, which we will unpack further to inform policy or strategic actions aimed at addressing weaknesses in the education service delivery. My ministry will then engage with the local and political leaders who must see it as their cardinal duty to work with their communities to improve the level of education of their children. Examination malpractice remains a challenge in the examination system despite the measures put in place by UNEB. I need not emphasize the obvious fact that malpractice is a serious threat to our national security because it erodes the credibility of our education system and reduces our competitiveness globally. The fact that perpetrators are teachers put in charge of our children is a serious affront to the ethics and integrity of the teaching profession. Government is committed, however, to providing the security and other necessary support to UNEB to enhance examination security at all stages, and will continue to strive to see how best we can change this status. You have heard the board chairperson mention some of those details. On our part, the ministry will vigorously pursue all reported cases of head teachers or teachers who are responsible for all forms of fraud associated with examinations, including non-registration of eligible candidates or other forms of malpractice. These will be subjected to the disciplinary process by the ministry's Reward and Sanctions Committee as prescribed in the Public Service Regulations and Teachers' Code of Ethics and Conduct. A number of these who were allegedly involved in a previous examination malpractice have already been summoned to answer related charges. Administrative sanctions may be preferred against them that include a possibility of submission to the relevant bodies for dismissal. I'm aware, though, of the inadequate provisions in the current law, as the chairperson of UNEB said, to curb malpractice. However, I wish to assure you that the UNEB bill has already been drafted and will soon get a cabinet approval before going to Parliament for debate and enactment. In accordance with the provisions of Section 4(3) of the UNEB Act Cap 137, laws of Uganda, I have authorized the withholding of those results for suspected candidates to allow UNEB and security agencies to complete investigations and for the persons involved to be given a fair hearing. I continue to call upon the chief administrative officers and the district service commissions, more so in those districts that have featured prominently, to take a firm grip on all teachers that have violated the trust reposed on them. There are districts that used to feature prominently, but have now taken a turn for the better. I thank those and encourage them to keep on the path of righteousness for the sake of our children. I congratulate the candidates who have done well, the teachers who prepared them, and the parents who supported them. I thank the security agencies and all other persons who supported UNEB in the field conduct of the examination. Please note that the dates earmarked for the Senior 1 selection exercise are 24th to 25th January 2019 at the Uma Showgrounds, Lugogo, while reporting to the schools where they will have been admitted is the 18th Feb 2019. I should hasten to add, however, that the guidelines on school charges that were first issued by our PS in October 2017 and a second circular date 29th October 2018 remain applicable. The PS will ensure that these guidelines and the use of unlicensed, unregistered schools and illegal boarding sections are widely disseminated and enforced. Copies should be availed to head teachers during the selection exercise and or any other convenient fora. It is now my pleasure to release the 2018 Uganda Primary Living Examination results for public use, and I want to thank you all for listening to me, and God bless you.
Yeah. And the minister, I know you got the government.
Thank you all. Thank you all for attending this occasion. You'll be free to leave at leisure. Those who are going for the photographs will then follow.
Bubi songa ne yali omukulembeze wa kusigala mu komera nkwaniriza kugaliwo ennaku z'omwezi ziri 17 tuli mu mwezi ogwa January omwaka 2019 nze Swafwa Nalubego okukusomera nkusaba okkalire ate nga kuwe mu bujjuvu. Ebyava mu bigezo bya primary living examination, that is PLE, ebyakolebwa omwaka oguwedde bifulumiziddwa olunaku olwaleero.